Hello. I wanted to make a brief screencast here on the local history project and make sure that it's clear and understandable to everyone what we're doing and why we're doing it. A quick reminder is that we do this project each quarter, first, second, and third quarter. In the fourth quarter, there will be a slight shift in the assignment, and I'll explain that more when we get closer to the fourth quarter. But essentially, the idea behind the project, and it's described here on this tab, the idea behind the project is that you students will go out and gather primary source materials, primary source documents about events in history in the United States. What does that mean? Well, a primary document is a first-hand account, a first-hand document. A photograph can be a primary document. An interview can be a primary document. A primary document is something that comes from the period or is a direct result of the period or a witness to a period in U.S. history. By contrast, we also talk about secondary sources in history. And secondary sources are, the classic example would be like a textbook. A textbook is not a primary document. It collects primary documents and then makes interpretations based on those collection of documents. It gives you their own summary. It is a second-hand account. Anything that you see, think like a court of law. If you actually see an event, you actually see a crime, you are a primary witness. You are a primary document to that event. If you only hear about it from a friend, well, at that point you are a secondary source. And maybe you can hear about an event from 3 different friends who were there. Maybe there's a big fight at a party, a boyfriend and girlfriend breakup, and you weren't there, but many of your friends were there, and they all tell you what they saw, what they heard. At that point, you become a really valuable secondary source. You have multiple perspectives, and you could talk about what happened at that party based on those multiple perspectives. Now, what I want to stress is that secondary sources are not necessarily less valuable than primary sources. It's just different. And what I want you to do in this local history project is to collect primary sources. Now, for most of you, what that means is going out and interviewing the oldest person that you know. Very often, this is grandparents, aunts, uncles, neighbors, friends of the family. Really think a moment about who you have access to and who would sit down and have an interview with you. The first thing to make clear with whoever you want to interview is that this is a public interview and it will be published. You need to stress this to the person that this is not a private conversation, it's not a project that only you and your teacher will see, that this is going to go online and this is going to be a public interview. If you do an interview, I highly recommend watching both of these videos. This man here is named Ira Glass. He has a program on public radio that comes on every Sunday night in which basically they use audio storytelling techniques. And he's got some great advice in terms of how to conduct an interview. I highly recommend watching it, and he's going to tell you that in an interview you really want to do 2 things. You want people to tell you stories, and you want to give them a chance to reflect on those stories and tell you what those stories mean. It's really important, and he does a great job describing it. So I really encourage you to play both of these. This in the middle, the ABCs, what this has to do with is when you do anything with camera and camera work and recording, you want to make sure you have your ABCs properly. And it's very simple. Audio, is your audio working? Is your sound picking up? Does it work? If you do a video recording, for instance, and for some reason the video part doesn't work, but you have audio, then you have a project. I mean, you can hand in, and we have basically a podcast like you'd have on the radio, just sound of that interview, and it works. That's a project. That's usable. By contrast, if you have a video shot, very clear, I can see who's talking, see what they're wearing, see where you are, but there's no audio, that's useless. I can't use that. That can't go in the database. The next is battery. Make sure you've got the battery. Make sure in the middle of your interview you might have, your grandfather tells you great stories for 25 minutes, but your battery died after 2. And that's unfortunate, especially if you didn't know when that happened. You think you have 25 minutes of greatness, and in fact you have 2 minutes and then a black screen. So make sure your battery, ideally you have it plugged in. If you can't plug in your camera, it doesn't have a permanent plug-in, you want to make sure that your battery symbol is strong and you have a sense of that. And the last is the C, the camera. Do you have a good shot? Think like a photographer. What's in your viewfinder? Don't set up your camera in such a way that you're cutting off half a person's head, or you have them half in or out of the shot. If the lights are off and it's too dark and there's a person there but I can only see a vague shadow of them, that's always problematic. So know your ABCs if you go to do a video camera interview. What I recommend when you go to do this interview, you think about how old the person is that you want to interview. Now let's say it's 2010. Let's say that you want to interview someone and they are 70 years old. Well, do some quick math. And what year were they born? 1940 sounds good. Okay, they're born in 1940. Well, for the first 20 years of most people's lives, give or take, they're not even paying very much attention. And that's fine. Kids will be kids, and they're focused on what they're doing, and maybe you don't remember that much of the first 20 years, so scratch that off. So, born in 1940, we'll give this person the first 20 years to not have to think about, and that means anything from 1960 up is fair game. Well, at that point, you want to use these timelines. And these are nothing special. They come from Wikipedia. They're general U.S. history timelines. And if you know that the person you interview, they're 70 years old, anything that happened from 1960 on up to the present day is fair game. So you might click on this link. And once you get here, all you're scanning down through, you scan down through, looking for 1960. Here are the 60s. And you scan through, you would look for things that maybe you've studied at different units in the class, and by this time we're just starting to get into the 60s. Some of this may seem familiar. We've done some Cold War. You can ask about things that, based on the person you're interviewing, things that might jump out to them. If the person served, obviously asking about service and military events would be important. If you know the person is very much a strong Republican or a strong Democrat, asking about political issues may be good. So you scan down through and pick a few events. Bob Dylan, maybe they're a music fan. You pick events that either seem large in terms of the United States history generally, or might be personal to you or to the person you're interviewing. And you pick, I would say pick 5 or 6 per decade. If you do this, you'll end up with about 20, 25, 30 questions. Now, not all of your questions are going to be relevant. Some of your questions, the person might say, geez, I don't remember much about that, or I don't really care. You get a very small answer to that. And that's fine. The person you interview is always right. It's like the customer. And they're doing you a favor, and you never want to forget that. However, by having such a range of questions to go to, if you get a few questions that there's not a lot of response on, you are bound to hit on something that they remember well or felt passionate about. And those are the areas that you want to stay on. So if you make a list of 20, 25, 30 questions, as you go through them, if you get a really good response on something, maybe you ask about JFK and the JFK assassination, don't just skip to your next question. Stay there. Ask a follow-up question about John F. Kennedy. If you feel that the person you're interviewing is really interested about that, they have a lot to say, then don't move on right away. Stay there. Ask some more questions about that thing. When your interview's done and you have your video file, the easiest thing to do is to upload it to YouTube, and then you can hand in the link, the YouTube link, to me. So that is how you approach Local History Project if you were doing a video interview, and that is most of you. Some people, they don't have someone to interview, they don't have anyone handy that they can get a hold of, maybe grandparents live far away, that sort of thing. Family photos are also good. If you scan in 15 to 20 family photos, older the better, black and white photos, maybe from your grandparents or they're just family heirlooms, scan those in. Once they're on your computer, upload those to in your Google account. It's called Picasa. If you go up to the top, you would click on more, and then even more in this account, scroll on down, and you would see Picasa right here. Once you click on Picasa, you would sign in right here and go to Picasa Web Albums, and you'd be able to sign in through your Google account and access those pieces. There's, as you can see, and for future projects, there's a lot of things that are accessible to you through your Google account, a lot of tools to use depending on what project we're doing. So you would scan those in, put them in Picasa, and once in Picasa, you could share that photo album with me, those photos with me. In general, what I really want to stress here is the importance of the Local History Project. It's important to see history as a conversation. It's a conversation between generations, and it's important that you have this conversation. So part of this class is to encourage you to go out and do that. It's also to be mindful and respectful of different voices. Sometimes in U.S. history or in any history class, we hear the textbook's point of view, we hear from some very famous people, and those are important, but we don't necessarily need to privilege those voices over other voices. And there's nothing you can read in a textbook that's any more valuable than talking to people who lived through the event to understand some of the context. And like the textbook is not always right, whatever that may mean, the person you interview is not necessarily right either, but they're not necessarily wrong. History is about opinion. It's about measuring your opinion against facts, against the data that we have. And it's important to hear a lot of different analysis from a lot of different voices. So when you do these interviews, be appreciative, be respectful, of course, and I look forward to seeing them. Thank you.